Here's another product sales video. The subject is title, agents, errors, and omissions insurance. The subject is going to be a very important one, particularly if you're a title agent, errors, and omissions person, or a title agent. And that's a nice thing because we've got the professional on this of all the people we could get in the country, and that is John Torvey. He's the Vice President of Marketing and Sales for the Landy Insurance Agency. That's a general agency. John's our most prolific speaker and presenter because he's done this as I think his fourth or fifth one, but he's really good because he helps you, and the purpose of this is to help you be able to submit the business and they'll make sure everything's covered properly. So what he'll do here, well, John, I'll leave it up to you, but I know what you're going to be doing, and that is you're going to start with who needs the coverage. So it's your nickel.
Yes. Thank you, George, and thanks for having me on again, and hello, everyone. Title agents, errors and omissions insurance, very much a specialty product, and the title agent category includes title agents, escrow agents, abstractors, closing agents, depending upon their specific function and even the location on a state-by-state basis. They could be called different things, but basically they all fall under the title agent category, having slightly different responsibilities, whether they're closing agents, abstractors, and title searchers, handling the escrow part of it. They would typically fall under title agents, errors and omissions insurance.
With you always talk about admitted and non-admitted. Would you explain just what is a non-admitted coverage? Because a lot of people will be seeing this really won't know, John.
Sure. Non-admitted coverage is coverage that typically does not fall under the state insurance guarantee fund. Typically, non-admitted coverage has a lot more flexibility with underwriting, whereas admitted coverage is approved by each state's insurance regulator and has very specific parameters in terms of underwriting guidelines, of debits and credits for premium, coverages available, and so on. Non-admitted coverage adds a little bit more flexibility to the underwriting process on all levels. The advantage to the insured and to the agent seeking coverage for the insured is that they can access coverage for risks that may have a adverse claims history, fall outside of the typical underwriting boxes for different professions and so on, whereas admitted coverage is again much more limited. Non-admitted coverage does require surplus lines filing. Typically, there are taxes and fees associated with that. So the client and the retail agent should be cognizant that if they're purchasing a non-admitted product, somebody has to do the surplus lines filing on behalf of that program. Quite often, the program administrator who's running the program for the insurance carrier, sometimes even the carrier themselves, will handle the surplus lines filing and taxes and so on. So neither the retail agent nor the client should be afraid of a surplus lines policy due to the filing requirements.
Well, when they deal with you, John, do you make sure that, I mean, do you help them also? I mean, as a general agency?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Typically, we will arrange to have the filing done. A lot of the people that we work with providing the coverage will handle the surplus lines filings, or we'll do them ourselves. And some of the retail agents, especially the bigger ones or the more regional ones, also have some surplus lines filing. So either way, it's certainly not a restrictive problem in any way.
All right. Let's talk about the escrow firm then. You've got a big 100% escrow firm, and I'm not quite sure what that means either, but if you'll help me and the agents, I'll be happy to do that. Why 100% escrow? Okay.
Well, escrow firms have a little bit of a different risk. Escrow firms are handling the money that's involved in the transaction, the deposits, and relaying the money from one party to the other. taking the money from the buyer, holding it in trust, passing it on to the lender during the closing process. So the risk is there in a slightly different way than a title search or a closing agent. So some companies require a different application and sometimes even slightly different policy form or amendments with escrow agents. So the retail agent and the client should be, again, cognizant that if they are a 100% escrow firm, to make sure that they're getting the right kind of coverage and completing the right kind of paperwork. Again, not an obstacle in any way. It's just a knowledge type of thing, George, where we want to make sure that people are getting the right coverage.
Got it. Got it. And the expense is the next subject, I believe.
Yeah, title agents are typically, frankly, paying a little bit more than some of their peers in other professions. All of the carriers seem to have minimum premiums starting around $1,000 and going up. And the premiums are based on revenues, first of all. So, of course, the bigger the firm, the higher the premium. And then, again, the areas of practice, whereas abstracting and the closing agent may pay a little less than an escrow agent. But, again, minimum premiums we have to expect starting at least $1,000 per year.
That's good. Okay, I understand. All right, who's covered, I guess, is the next subject.
Okay. This one comes up a lot because there's a lot of assumptions made in professional liability insurance policies about who's covered and who's not covered. In the case of title agents, as in any profession, it's important. Title agents will often use independent contractors. For example, a title agent may use an independent contractor to do the title search, or an escrow agent. So any title agent client who is using independent contractors needs to be very aware of whether or not independent contractors are covered under a particular carrier's policy, if those coverages need to be endorsed in, or if in fact they're not available at all. Some carriers may require the independent contractor to carry their own professional liability insurance. So ICs can present, again, not an obstacle, but just a point that needs to be paid attention to in terms of obtaining the right coverage. But again, we all need to look and see who's covered and make sure the people we're using in our businesses are in fact listed on the policy itself.
Got it. Okay. Now we go to the attorneys, and that's always an interesting one to go to for a lot of different reasons, obviously. How's that work?
Yeah, this is one that really needs a lot of attention, especially for agents who are selling both professional liability insurance as well as legal malpractice insurance. Many agents, attorneys who are involved in the real estate world also do title work. And it's important that we recognize how they may be covered. Typically, we see a couple of different things, maybe three things. We see attorneys who are title agents who do not have the opportunity to get title coverage under their professional liability policy and have to carry a separate, totally separate title insurance policy. There are some carriers who will automatically include title agent or will endorse title agent on as a professional service under a lawyer's malpractice insurance policy. That's the cleanest way to do it. But sometimes we see, especially with the larger law firms, the law firm also will have a separate title agent company, a separate LLC or a separate S corporation from the law firm. So then coverage can get a little bit more complicated because we have to determine should the separate title agent corporation be endorsed onto the lawyer's professional liability insurance policy, or should there be two separate policies? Again, there's no one answer to that, George. It really has to do with the nitty-gritty of how the law firm and the title agent work together. It has to do with the carrier's underwriting guidelines. So it's one of those things, again, not an obstacle to coverage, but what kind of coverage, really, you have to get into the nitty-gritty of how the law firm and the title agent are operating and what's the best possible coverage for them. You get into things like sharing limits versus separate limits with two separate policies. So there's pros and cons on both sides. It's certainly something we need to analyze and pay attention to.
Yes, I can see why it would be interesting. Well, and it is interesting, and it's challenging too. All right, let's go to our last point here, or almost our last. Go ahead.
Everyone should be very aware of what's happening with cybercrime, data breach, ransomware, and so on. Title agents and especially escrow agents have a huge, huge risk here and a growing risk, especially as it relates to wire fraud and social engineering, which is basically the attempt of the cyber criminal to misappropriate escrow funds from my account as an escrow agent or a closing agent to my offshore bank account, criminal bank account, and I'm going to pose as the lender, as an attorney, and ask that you send the money to me fraudulently, and again, it goes to my offshore bank account. Cybercrime, cyber liability, ransomware, which is basically the freezing of your computer system until you pay a ransom. Very prevalent, more and more with title agents. Title agents and their insurance agent representative should be very aware that there's little to no cybercrime data protection coverage on a professional liability insurance policy. Separate coverage is typically required and recommended. I know no one wants to buy all the insurance in the world, and but this is one that we see is very, very important based on increasing computer crime and data breaches.
Man, boy, it is really getting wild out there, and I don't even think we even know what's going to be happening in the future. So that's a really important point. So the application, now the agent's getting ready to get the application. Anything particular you want to mention on this?
Well, all of the carriers will have their own applications. Some of the carriers require membership in certain professional organizations. Some do not. We offer a one-page questionnaire, certainly not an application, but it's enough to get us started and provide a decent indication of premium. And based on the information that we receive on this questionnaire, for example, we'll have a sense of what carrier or carriers to approach on behalf of our clients and agents, what the appetite is, what the nature of the firm is. And it's a good way to start. The client and the retail agent should expect, once they receive an indication from a questionnaire like this, that they will actually have to complete a full application on behalf of the carrier. But this is a good way to get started to help the client to get an idea and a very close idea of what pricing is going to be.
That's perfect. Now, what if they want to talk to the pro, who's John Darby? How do can they talk? Will you help these people if they have a problem of any kind?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's why we're doing this, and we're very available to all of the retail agents out there to answer questions and assist with obtaining coverage. I can be reached at John T, Johnt, at landy.com. My direct line is 781-292-5417. So we are here to assist.
John, again, I thank you very much for doing a wonderful job as a presenter and on this sales video, and I know that we'll be working together in the future, and I can't say too many good things about Landy and about you, so thanks again, John.
Thank you, Judge.